So remember that these, the literature search that I did from my master's, it's going to be based on psychotherapists and counsellors. So the research, those who were well functioning and thriving showed that those who were passionately committed psychotherapists experienced a strong sense of spirituality. So in terms of looking at the spirit module, I'm not going to be defining spirit because I feel I'm going to be preaching to the converted and probably get it wrong anyway, according to how you guys define it. So I will just take it as given that we're going to have some kind of understanding about what the spirit module might mean, but we'll also be doing an exercise about that. So, and also they found that when carers or counsellors and therapists are going through their training, that if their training actually emphasised balance and integration with the rest of life and the spiritual and transcendent nature of caring, that it's actually can be something that can be used as a practice, as a path, that could be essential for the field to maintain motivated and competent professionals. And that's an important aspect because I think that's often overlooked in certainly conventional, not pastoral counselling, but conventional training in caring, in counselling, in therapy doesn't mention spirituality, and it's a large part of most people's lives. So if we as carers don't actually find out from who we're dealing with what spirituality means for them, how it's incorporated into their life, what problems, what resources it gives them, what problems it causes them, then that's going to also create problems and stresses for us in our work. I thought it was interesting that there's some work out there that's been done. This particular research that has been done, and it's a spiritual health and life orientation measure called Shalom, and I've got the reference in the back there for you if you want to show it up, if you want to look it up. This guy called Fisher looks at the fact that it has been tested against a wide in a wide range of sectors. So it's been translated in various languages, it's been used in various countries, so it might be useful as a resource if you haven't actually come across it, how to actually identify spiritual health and well-being. And this particular model uses 4 domains. Personal well-being is incorporated into spiritual, communal well-being, environmental and transcendental. So Elliot Ingersoll was one of my trainers in the Integral Psychotherapy Conference that I attended in 2004. And he had done a spiritual wellness inventory way back in '95. And so it was something that was brought into what we were discussing. And his has 10 dimensions, unlike the 4 from previously. And it's not as widely validated, but obviously people who know about it and use the integral model do use this as a reference as well and as a tool. So his 10 dimensions are the conception of the absolute and divine, and what is useful about this coming from the integral model, that it takes all aspects of the divine or the absolute, if you want to use that term, into account, including atheistic. So, and that's useful. So whatever meaning people give to it, their sense of connectedness to spirituality, the sense of mystery that's involved, the sense of spiritual freedom that they may have involved with that. So some people, as you're aware, are very, again, and that comes into fouler stages of development, you know, are very rigid in their spiritual practices or spiritual beliefs, and part of the wellness inventory is having a sense of freedom and flexibility with spirituality. Your connection with an experience of ritual or experiences in your spiritual life, how forgiveness plays into your life, how you use that, what it means for you, the sense of hope that Spirit provides for you, the knowledge and learning that you have and others with whom you're in contact with have about Spirit, and how that relates to the community and your own self, and present-centeredness. So, and it's kind of interesting because when you think about people who come to us in spiritual crisis of one sort or another, Elliot's, he's found that this kind of using this questionnaire with them, this inventory, can actually identify those who are actually going through a psychological crisis or actually have psychological issues at stake, like schizophrenic issues, etc., where they are hearing voices and misattributing them to spirit or something transcendent. And so, because he's a psychologist, he's using these domains as a way of really teasing out what is healthy and what is not healthy experience for those people who come in spiritual crisis. Using Roger Walsh's own book, he's written a lovely book called Essential Spirituality with seven practices in a way that seem to run through a lot of spiritual traditions around the world. And he uses this term, Robbie, using his description of a direct experience of the transcendent. And the word transcendent is something that is beyond or above the range of our normal or physical human experience. When we experience things that cannot generally be explained in the way that we operate in the normal world, or how we understand the normal or physical world to operate. So, of course, there are probably other interpretations of transcendent that we could use, but just for the purposes of this presentation, that's what I'm using. The thing that we do need to be aware of is that there are many states of spiritual experience that we can have, transcendent experience, and that these states, which can be momentary or last for minutes, hours, days, weeks, sometimes don't necessarily designate a stage of spiritual development. A state is a transitory experience of the transcendent or something beyond the normal, whereas a stage of development where we have really grown into and earned, in a way, and developed the capacities within ourselves and the understandings to actually process what we have experienced and how to utilize that in our life in a healthy way, is a stage of development, which is what Fowler's talking about. Now, this can be brought about, these states, transcendent experience, through prayer, meditation, contemplation, all of these things, but they can actually also occur spontaneously, and this has been defined in the literature. So people can, in trauma, flip into experiences like that. Exercise can bring it on. Sexual activity can bring it on. Listening to music, looking at art, nature, all of these things, whenever we're focused, and Csikszentmihalyi's theory of flow really takes into account this, when we're really focusing on something intensely that we are very absorbed in and that has a great deal of meaning for us, it can flip us into this state of flow, which some people interpret as a spiritual or a transcendent experience. And of course drugs can happen. So, many people that come to therapists, and maybe yourselves, it can be sort of drug-induced or trauma-induced effects of, or experiences that are drug or trauma-induced. And, we need to be able to discern, what was kicking it off. And even long-term, like I had one guy who came to me in my practice in Newtown, and it was actually several months after Mardi Gras, where he'd taken a whole cocktail of drugs and alcohol and stuff, and he'd come down all right, he was fine for a few months, and then later he had all these flashbacks that were just really throwing his life around. And so we don't know really how drugs impact the body and mind, and where they're stored in the body, and what sort of situations may re-trigger those experiences, or a release of stored residues from those drugs in the system. This is just for your own reference for later on. This is, some of you may have had this.
Colour version of this yesterday.
Oh, colour! I couldn't find colour, so good on you. So you're aware of all these different types of experiences that are possible. I just thought I'd put that in without spending a lot of time on it. And again, the research has shown that those who have a passionate interest in activities unrelated to their work as carers, and those who pay attention to spiritual disciplines and development, were more crucial in terms of these aspects, were more crucial than the pursuit of professional avenues of development to maintaining well functioning. So you guys are in a good place in a way to, you're ahead of the game here. And again, same from Glugos and Friedlander, these individuals who were well functioning experience a pervasive sense of meaning and significance in their work by integrating and locating it within a larger, more transcendent perspective. So seeing it as a calling or a contribution to the welfare of humanity as a whole, or however you want to frame it for yourself, doing God's word, all of that gives it a much larger perspective than just dealing with people who are stressed.
I think that this is actually sort of feeds back to what we were talking about taking time for our own spiritual development as a matter of self-care, as opposed to just looking to the spiritual development of our congregants.
Absolutely, yes.
I think a piece of that in the we box actually as well, that I think we're growing into the longer we will keep doing this, is getting more, because it's I think when I first started, I think for a few of us who started at the same sort of time, it remains awkward for a while to phrase what you're doing in spiritual terms and put it in a spiritual context in terms of the work exactly. And you sort of tend to kind of use sort of work-focused language to talk about stuff rather than explicitly placing it within a spiritual frame, and that feels a bit uncomfortable and awkward for a while. And I notice a lot of us are getting more sort of maturing in our ability, our willingness and ability to phrase things in those terms, and place things in a transcendent context.
Right.
So that's, I think, positive as well.
Right, fantastic. Okay, so you may have touched on too, Tim, with the Wilbur Coons lattice, that there are lots of different practices that we can actually do that take into account. You didn't do it?
It's all yours.
Oh, you didn't do it. Okay, that's great. Okay, so there are practices, and this is, Wilbur-based stuff, and the Integral Life Practice book might be a useful resource for you all too, and that's in the back in the references. So first-person practices are those meditative, contemplative practices which help us to recognize our essential nature, whatever that is, or our I am nature. This is using Wilbur's terminology. The second-person practices are forms of prayer or communion in which we relate to spirit as a great you or thou. Prayer of the heart does this, centering prayer, heartfelt service to others, so the caring aspect can actually be viewing others, like St. Francis is a classic, person who saw the parishioners as, and, Mother Teresa seeing all of the people she was attending to as manifestations of Christ. Devotional yoga, those things, practices like that. And third-person practices are the forms of contemplation by which we relate to spirituality as an it or its. So we can read uplifting works, reading spiritual, tracts, contemplating nature, feeling into the universe and its complexity and its beauty and its drama, and opening ourselves to the mystery of just being alive and what it actually means. So these three practices, I thought, or these three perspectives, I thought I could lead you through, an experiential practice for the spirit module. And this is something that you can just do by yourself in the chair. So if you want to engage in this, would that be okay to just have an experience of those three perspectives of the spirit module? So just making yourself comfortable in your chair. And the point of this is to give you an increasing sense of intimacy with spirit. And the idea is that we can at any time experience spirit as a third person it, a second person thou, or a first person I. So depending on your own process, where you are in your own self, in your understanding and experience of spirit, you might find one or more of any of these relevant. So, and repeating these sentences to yourself, the ones that I'll be, maybe saying out loud to you, just let these perspectives arise within you and see what happens. So just take take a moment to make yourself comfortable in your chair, and if you're okay to do this, gently closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. Noticing your breath wherever it is most noticeable in your body. And we'll start by focusing our awareness on a third person image of spirit. So you might find it helpful to visualize a beautiful scene in nature, an image of our galaxy, a favorite icon, or picture or image or statue that you have, and allow this visualization to arise in your awareness. And feel spirit as an it in your body and mind, how this imagery that you've allowed to arise impacts your body and your mind. And notice how third person images of spirit impact you. Bring your awareness into the impact of that image. And then just silently repeat to yourself the following sentence. I contemplate spirit as all that is arising, the great perfection of this and every moment. I contemplate spirit as all that is arising, the great perfection of this and every moment. Notice in your body how this third person awareness of spirit manifests for you. Notice how it impacts how you feel, what you think, what you might have a tendency to want to do. Now gently turn your awareness to face spirit in your imagination, however you conceive of it. If it's appropriate for you, you can use the same image. If not, just allow whatever arises in the second part of the practice to be there. Perhaps you might see spirit expressed through the sculpture or a painting, as I've mentioned before, a saint or a sage, or through the being of someone that you love or admire. Allow your full second person relationship to spirit, seeing it face you. You and this other, this thou, this beloved, this you are in relationship face to face. register this relationship in your breath, in your body, in your mind, in your emotions. And as you face this second person aspect of spirit, silently repeat, I behold and commune with spirit as an infinite thou, who bestows all blessings on me, and before whom I gladly offer gratitude and devotion. I behold and commune with spirit as an infinite thou, who bestows all blessings on me, and before whom I gladly offer gratitude and devotion. Now deepen that intimacy. Imagine that image moving towards you. Imagine you are merging into each other until you recognize there is no separation at all. You are one. Feel your first person identification with and as the ultimate I. Allow your breath, body, mind and emotions to register your ultimate identity. You may find it helpful to use any of the following to describe your identity. I am pure awareness, witness, isness. And silently repeat the following sentence. I rest in spirit as my own witness and original self. I am one with all. I rest in spirit as my own witness and original self. I am one with all. So in this ever-present, easy and natural state, when you're ready, open your eyes and connect to everything and everyone in this room.